put this rolling. Yay, I think we're actually live now. YouTube's a little bit weird with how they go live because you have to like go live in the YouTube dashboard and it's a little bit funky with YouTube. Let me make sure this is all working properly. Okay, not seeing it on my YouTube page. Why is that not surprising me? YouTube be so weird with this. Okay, no, apparently it's flanging. I just want to make it's a little bit hopefully. Okay, no, we're good. We're good. We're going. Okay, got my Boba Fett hoodie. Not hard to see it's a Boba Fett hoodie, but it's like zips. You can't really see it. It like zips all the way around. Okay, cool. Cool. Yay, it's working. Okay, so I don't mean to be like fucking with my phone. Well, I mean I am fucking with my phone, but yeah, I just do like a preview screen dealy. Let me make sure the volume's down. Volume's down in the right way because I need just the media volume to be turned down and not the ringtone volume because I could be getting an important phone call. It's not supposed to be until 11:20 because I have to do a phone appointment with the gastroenterologist now, which actually I kind of don't mind. But yeah, that phone call is like right after this. I kind of forgot, which is interesting. So just let me flange up my previewy thing. Hey Midna, that's my Midna. What's up Midna? Go. Oh here. Oh, I lost my hat. Come on Midna. Does Midna want to come up for some lap time? Can't see her right now. But oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I like to have like a preview screen on my phone that like oh it's a Shy Guy too. Hopefully they get along and be each other. Hey Shy Guy. See, Shy Guy wants to say hi to the camera. He's been a bit on grumpy lately. Oh, apparently he wants cuddles and it's not that. Oh. Okay, that means he wants to go. I love you. Playful. Sometimes he'll like, oh yeah, he's feeling playful. He'll do this thing where he like jumps to grab my hand. Fun and cute. Come on, Shy Guy. Oh, there we go. Okay. If I push it though, he might get grumpy. He's I don't know. He's always been like this. It's really easy to overstimulate him, and he just gets like, get away from me. And he's always just been like quick to get overstimulated and overwhelmed, which is something I can totally understand actually. Don't mind me while I eat an orange before this starts. But yeah, I suppose I should actually be talking about like, oh, I should like spread the link around. I forgot. I should do that. But yeah, while I'm spreading my link around, that sounds wrong. Yeah, while I spread that link around, excuse me. I suppose I should speculate about what we're going to see. So one thing I'm curious about, I'm not sure how legit this rumor is. But where the hell did I even read that? But yeah, I read or heard somewheres, and I can't remember where now, that the PS5 specs that have been leaked are accurate, but there actually will be two PS5s, and the like full PS5 Pro version will be like on par or better than the Xbox Series X. I don't know how legit that is. Take that with lots of salt, because I'm not sure. I can't even remember where that came from. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's legit. But the real thing on people's minds is specs wise, I'm pretty sure like, things won't be like too. Yeah, I'm not too worried about specs. I'm more worried about price, like many people. It's like, how are they going to price these things? And it seems like other people have commented this, that they're kind of like playing a bit of a game of chicken for pricing, waiting for the other company to announce the price, so they can just undercut it, even by like maybe even $20 or something, but just to undercut the other person. And they're almost certainly going to be at cost or taking a hit. Like, it's very unlikely they'll be making a profit on this hardware with how good it is. It's like, even if you like compensate for wholesale and all that, yeah, price wise, it looks like they're going to be taking a loss or breaking even, and it seems like just how much of a loss will they be taking. Flanging some live commentary. Ooh. On the PS5 reveal video will be breaking down technical aspect. Smiley face. Okay, there we go. Got that flanged up. Fire that off everywheres, and it's pretty much time for this to get starting too. Yeah, it's been a bit of a morning, so it's been a long time, and it wasn't too bad as far as such, I guess, flare-ups, for lack of a better term, go. But yeah, I threw up this morning, and definitely, like, the nausea thing with the gastrointestinal stuff definitely been coming back and getting worse again. Wouldn't be surprised if antibiotics just, like, clear it up again. Oh? Oh, okay, apparently I already did that one? Huh. Yeah, so... Yeah, it sucks. Oh, okay, that's what happened. Oh, it usually fucks up the, thumbnail dealy. Oh, it's just about time to start. Let's refresh that just in case. Okay, I'm not surprised. This is fairly normal that they're, like, a little bit late actually starting. I wouldn't be... you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they're doing something similar to what I does, because it takes a little while for YouTube to actually, like, connect your streaming service to actually do the streaming. Oh, did I double post that? Apparently I double posted. Oh, yeah, how'd that happen? Well, where's volume? Oh, we're muted. Why are we muted? Well, I hope that's not too loud. I'm going to turn that down just a bit, just so it's easier, just so I'm not, like, competing with it too much. Yeah, I can't really see chat, so it's going to be, well, like, I can see chat if I, like, go to YouTube, but it'll be tricky. Anyways, let me finish finding up this last link. I totally just clicked the wrong spot and wasn't really paying attention because I'm multitasking so much. Oh, we still got, like, a minute something countdown? That's hilarious. Yeah, Facebook got weird on the, like, page for thing flange because, yeah, there we go. I have to, like, actually have a thumbnail image because it's not doing the thumbnails properly there for whatever reason. So let me check the chat here. But yeah, let me know if the audio levels need any adjustments in the chat. Can we full screen this? Yes, we can. So anyways, with the pricing and all that, yeah, for the Pro or high-end models like the Series X or whatever, the PS5 high-end model, because I'd be surprised. Oh, okay. Oh, never mind. I got my screens mixed up. That's just to check chat. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if, excuse me, we see something around the 500, 600 price range for the, like, high-end models. And I'd actually be more surprised if PlayStation didn't do a high-end and low-end model. It just makes sense, because you want to get people in. Even if you do a low-end model just to help get people in the door, kind of deal, like, it makes sense. And it also makes sense for them to, you know, kind of hold back on some stuff.
Unfortunately,
okay, apparently I need to turn this up.
The talk that we had planned for GDC, but we do have some super exciting news about PS5. And
okay, I'll just move my mic further
to bring that to you than the one and only Mark Cerny. Without further ado, over to you, Mark.
Okay, so this is like a replacement.
There will be lots of chances later on this year to look at the PlayStation 5 games. Today,
for some reason, Austin Powers comes to mind.
For the PlayStation 5
and I don't know if that's
and how they influenced the development of the console. I think you all know I'm a big believer in console generations. Once every 5 or 6 or 7 years, a console arrives with substantially new
green screen's out of whack.
There's a lot of learning by the game developers, hopefully not too overwhelming, and soon there's games that could never have been created before. Now, it used to be that as a console designer, you'd somehow intuit what would be the best set of capabilities for the new console, and then build it in complete secrecy. For the PlayStation consoles, that period lasted through PlayStation 3, a powerful and groundbreaking console, but also one that caused quite a lot of heartache, as it was initially difficult to develop games for. So, starting with PlayStation 4, we've taken a different approach, roughly centered around 3 principles. The first of these is listening to the developers, which is to say that a lot of what we put into a console derives directly from the needs and aspirations
I'm not
of the
saying
game
don't
creator.
listen to the developers.
We definitely
I'm
do
saying
have
listen
some
to
ideas
both
of our
developers
own, but at the
and
core of our
gamers,
philosophy for designing consoles is that game players are here for the fantastic games, which is to say that game creators matter. Anything we can do to make life easier for the game creators or help them realize their dreams, we will do. So about once every 2 years, I take a tour of the industry. I go to the various developers and publishers, sit down, and discuss how they're doing with the current consoles and what they'd like to see in future consoles.
I don't know what that means.
This requires weeks on the road, as reaching the bulk of the game creators involves talking to well over 100 people at something like 24 publishers and developers. And it is incredibly valuable.
They got like fake people.
By the way, the feature most requested by the developers, that was an SSD, which we were very happy to put in the hardware, but a lot of problem solving was required. I'll be doing a deep dive on the SSD and surrounding systems later on in this
They could have done an SSD model of the PS4
It's also key to make a generational leap while keeping the console sufficiently familiar to game developers. I think about this in terms of balancing evolution and revolution. Now, with PlayStation 1, 2, and 3, the target was a revolution each time with a brand new feature set. That was great in many ways, but time for the developers to get up and running got longer with each console. In the past, I've called this time
like those
to
first
time.
3, there's like
Here's what I have for those 3 consoles.
Hope I'm not too far away. I don't want to like outdo his volume too much. They seem a bit quiet.
And it may take them 6 years or so to realize their vision. What I'm talking about is that dead time before graphics and other aspects of game development are up and running, and trying to minimize that. On the other hand, if we're trying to reduce that dead time to 0, that means the hardware architecture can't change at all. We're handcuffed. We need to judge for each feature what value it adds and whether it's worth the increase in developer time needed to support it. So with PlayStation 4, we were able to strike a pretty good balance between performance and familiarity. We got required learning back to PlayStation 1 levels. With PS5, the GPU was definitely the area we felt the most tension between adding new features and keeping a familiar programming model. Ultimately, I think we've ended up with something under a month of getting up to speed. That feels like we're striking about the right balance. I'll go into a bit more detail later today about our philosophy with the GPU and the specific feature set that resulted from it. It's also very important for us, as the hardware team, to find new dreams, by which I mean something other than CPU performance, GPU performance, and the amount of RAM. The increase in graphics performance over the past 2 decades has been astonishing, but there are other areas in which we can innovate and provide significant value to the game creators, and through them, the players. That's why the SSD was very much on our list of directions to explore, regardless of what came out of the conversations with game developers and publishers. The biggest feature in this category is the custom engine for audio. That's today's final topic. The push for vastly improved audio, and in particular 3D audio, isn't something that came out of the developer meetings. It's much more the case that we had a dream of what might be possible 5 years from now.
I mean, playing Call of Duty Warzone, it's been like, that can really matter depending on the game.
So here again are the 3 principles. The first being enabling the desires of developers to drive the hardware design. To me, the SSD really is the key to the next generation. It's a game changer. And it was the #1 ask
as a PC person, I can't help but be like, dude, it took you guys long enough.
We know it's probably impossible, but can you put an SSD in it?
I remember with my PC when I first got an SSD, and it was like, oh my god, finally.
Hard drive in every PlayStation 4
because it took me a while to be able to afford one way back in those days when they were new and more expensive, and I finally got one. It was like, oh my god, an SSD.
At the same time, though, in 2015 and 2016, when we were having these conversations,
so standard.
Developers were already banging up against the limits of the hard drive, and a lot of developer time was being spent designing around slow load speeds.
Yeah, that's why some of these games are huge, apparently. I didn't realize that until kind of recently.
Which is how long it takes to load a gigabyte of data from a hard drive.
I got like a
The difficulty being that hard drives are neither particularly fast nor flexible.
There we go.
If all your data is in one block, which is frankly not very likely, you can load 50 to 100 megabytes a second, depending on where the data is
as a
located
PC person, I'm like, I already know this.
On the average,
I'm like,
which means loading a
PC
gigabyte
people
takes
are way ahead
if
of
you
you guys.
compress your game packages,
You'll be able to tell
fit
who's
more
like
data
a
on the
console
Blu-ray
person
disc,
and who's a
and also
PC person, because
effectively
PC
boost
people will
your
be like,
hard
yeah,
drive read
we've
speed
already
by
been doing that.
compression
Console people will be
ratio.
like, oh
We
my god,
support
this is great. And I
Z
don't
link
mean to be like,
decompression on
I
PlayStation 4
don't mean to
that gets
be
you
like
something like
disrespectful
50%
or
more
down
data
on
on the
console
disc
people,
and
but it's just like,
higher
when you're a PC person and you've had this for so long, it's just like, guys, you could have done this with PS4, or you could have put an SSD in and just done like an expensive SSD model that'd be like $100 extra or whatever.
So lots of seeks are needed.
And that was the only thing holding it back. And they really could have done it. They could have even done an NVMe model. Like,
and only
well, that could be trickier.
Actually loading data.
I'll take that back. That could be trickier.
A gigabyte is very.
I mean, really, they need to just be going NVMe SSD, which is even faster. It's now basically NVMe.
A gigabyte is not much data. Games are using 5 or 6
Express
gigabytes
system,
of
which is
RAM
just
on
so much
PlayStation 4,
faster
so boot times and
than
load
the
times can
SATA
get
system.
pretty grim. Or to put
Which I
that
forget what
differently,
SATA stands
as
for,
a
but it's like
player,
the
you
hard
wait
drive
for the game
connection
to boot,
protocol.
Wait for the game to
one now, 'cause
load.
apparently we're just
Wait for the
going to do it all
level
on
to
PCI.
reload every time you die, and you wait
Which
for
I also
what
forget
is
what
euphemistically
PCI
called
stands for.
fast travel. And all of that leads
Oh,
to the dream.
yes, fast travel.
What if
Being
we could
slow
have
because
not
of the
just
long
an
load times.
SSD,
Yes,
but a
yes. Oh,
blindingly
wait, with
fast
PC I don't
SSD.
have that
If
problem.
we could load
One of the many
5
reasons I do
gigabytes
prefer
a
PC.
second from it, what would change?
But come on, can we get
Now,
to like the
SSDs
good meaty
are
specs? I'm
completely
like, oh
different
my
from
god,
They
are they
don't
just
have
gonna like
seeks
how
as
long are they
such.
gonna brag
If
about?
you have
Oh, we
a
have
5 gigabyte a
SSDs
second
now.
SSD,
Like
you can read data from
PCs haven't had
1,000 different
SSDs for
locations
like
in that
how
second,
fucking
pretty
long?
much at speed.
Not
As
quite
for
a decade, I
time
don't
to load
think.
a gigabyte, this is
I'm trying to
next
remember
gen
when
we're
I
talking
first
about.
when
So
I got
memory
that.
is bigger. Instead,
Well,
we should be asking how long
all what
to
remains
load
of that
2
computer now
gigabytes.
really is the
And
case.
the
But the
answer
computer
is
I got in
about
2009 that
quarter
lasted
of
me
a
just
second.
shy of a
And that's
decade.
amazing. We're talking
Was there
2
even
orders of
SSDs when I
magnitude,
put that
meaning
together?
very roughly 100 times faster. Which
I
means
can't
at 5
remember because I'm
gigabytes a
pretty
second for the
sure I
SSD, the
upgraded it
potential
to
is
an
that
SSD
the
after
game
having a
boots
hard
in a
drive.
second.
I'm pretty sure
There
that's
are
what I'm
no
remembering.
load screens. The game just
And
fades
SSDs were
down
still
while
kinda
loading
new and
a half
expensive
dozen
back then.
gigabytes and fades back up again. Same for a reload.
It was a long
You're
time ago.
immediately back
My
in the
memory's
action after
fuzzy.
you die. And
But yeah,
fast
having a
travel becomes
PS4
so
and a
fast, it's blinking you
Nintendo
miss it.
Switch and
As
then
game
playing like the
creators,
same
we go from
games on
trying to distract the player from
PC
how
at
long
times,
fast
it's
travel
like,
is taking,
yeah, the
like
load
those
screen difference
Spider-Man
is like
subway
significant.
rides, to
Like
being
Breath of
so
the Wild with the load
blindingly
screens,
fast that we
like
might even
I haven't
have to
played
slow
the
that transition down.
Cemu
Pretty cool,
emulated
right?
version.
But for me,
that
this
would
is
be
not
faster.
the primary reason to
Load
change
screens,
from
but
a
just
hard
other
drive to an
games like
SSD.
Doom
The primary
on the
reason
Switch.
for an
What else
ultra-fast
has also
SSD
been on?
is that it gives the game designer freedom.
Terrible.
Or to put that differently, with
actually,
a hard drive, the 20
not a whole
seconds
lot
that it
apparently
takes to load a gigabyte
on
can
PlayStation.
sabotage the game
There's something
that
I
the developer
downloaded.
is trying to create.
I can't remember.
I think almost
More
all
so
of
with
us in the
Nintendo Switch.
room have
Wolfenstein
experienced
also.
this, maybe
That's
in
one
different
examples
ways.
that come to
Say
mind.
we're making an adventure game, and we have
Okay.
2 rich environments where we each want enough textures and models to fill memory.
Do they have enough
Which you
house?
can do as long as you have a long staircase or elevator ride or a
And a towel.
windy corridor where you can ditch the old assets and then take 30
he's
seconds or
forgetting to
so
bring a
to
towel.
load the new assets.
Gotta bring a
Having
towel.
a 30-second elevator ride is a little extreme. More realistically, we'd probably chop the world into
yes,
a number of
hidden
smaller
load
pieces
screens.
and then do some calculations with
Something I'm
sight
surprised they're not
lines
better
and
at by
run
now,
speeds,
where it's just
we
like
did
they
for
hide load
Haven
screens
City
in
when
with
we
like
were making
transitional
Jack 2.
areas,
The
like
game is 20 years
elevators
old,
and
but not much
stuff
has
like
changed
that,
since then.
or
All those
bury them
twisted
like while the
passages are
cutscene's
there
going
for a
on,
reason.
their
There's
load
a whole
screening.
subset
Like
of
they
level
could
design
just
dedicated
get better
to
at
this sort of
hidden
work,
load screens
but
and also
still,
just having
it's a
things for
giant
people to
distraction
do.
for a team that just
But that's the
wants
thing. I
to
think
make their
really what
game.
we're going to get with their like no
So
more
when I
load screens
talked
is they'll
about
just
the
hide
dream
the
of an
load
SSD,
screen
part of the
when they
reason
are
for that
there.
5
So they'll just be
gigabyte a
hidden
second
load
target
screens.
was
They're very
to
minimal. They'll be
eliminate
like no more
loads,
load screens.
but
It's
also
like,
part of
well,
the reason for
that when the
target
screen goes black
streaming.
for a second, that's
As
a load
in,
screen.
what if
It's just
the
no like
SSD
a
is
big
so fast
long
that
load
as
screens
the
where you're sitting
player
there
is
for
turning
like,
around,
oh, I
it's
should go
possible to
start
load
a cup of tea
textures
or
for
something.
everything
load
behind the
screens.
player in that split
Which is
second.
great, don't get
If
me
you
wrong,
figure that
but
it takes half a second
it kind of
to
annoys
turn,
me
that's
that they're
4 gigabytes of
overstating
compressed data you
the
can load.
SSD
That
load
sounds
screen
about
thing,
right
because
for next
from
gen.
being on PC,
Anyway,
it's like like
Back
I
to
know
the
the reality of
Another
it.
strategy for
Like,
increasing
I
effective read
doubt
speed is to make
even on
big
PCI
sequential
4,
chunks
like
of data. For example, we
they
might
can only do
group
it so
all the
fast.
data together for each city block. That removes
And
most
there are
of the
ways to
seams,
optimize and
the
all
streaming
that,
is
and there
faster.
are,
But
you
there's
know,
a
you do get
downside,
certain
too, which is that
optimizations you can
frequently
pull
used
off
data
more
is
easily with
included
console
in
than
many
on
chunks
PC.
and
Console
therefore is
does
on the
have
hard
some
drive
advantages
many,
that way.
many times.
because console's
Marvel's
only
Spider-Man
dedicated
uses
to what
this
it
strategy,
does.
and though it works very well for
The
increasing the streaming
optimizations
speed,
can get you
there's
further
a
with lesser
massive
hardware,
duplication as a
but
result.
that still only goes
Some
so
of the
far.
objects like
And that takes time
mailboxes
to
or
mature,
news
too.
racks are on the hard drive
Anyways, I
400
stopped talking
times.
over him on this one.
What I'm describing
Oh,
here
yeah,
are
yeah,
things
no,
that
he's the,
cramp
like...
a creative director's style.
Yeah, he's
Either
talking
level
about the
design
whole
gets a little
thing where
bit
they put
boring in
like 20
places,
copies
or
of a
the data is
thing
duplicated
just
so
so the
many
hard
times
drive
that
can
it
find
no
it more
longer fits on
easily,
the Blu-ray
which is
disc.
probably why Call
And
of
you end up
Duty
with
Modern
hard
Warfare is
limits on the player's
185
run
fucking
speed or
gigabytes.
driving speed.
And Red
The
Dead
player
Redemption's
can't go
like
faster
almost
than the load
120 or
speed
something
from
like
the hard
that.
drive.
Like, I'm
And
working
finally,
on
I'm
finishing
sure
Red
many
Dead
of you have
Redemption just
noticed
so I
that after a
can
patch
get it
delay,
off my hard drive to make
PlayStation
room for
4
other
sometimes
things.
take a
It is a
long
great
time
game,
to
but as
install
like
the
when it came to
patch.
prioritizing what am I going
That's
to play
because
next, I'm
when
like,
just part
I wouldn't
of the
mind
file
opening
has
up
been
some
changed,
space
the new data can be downloaded
by
pretty
finishing
quickly.
Red Dead
But
Redemption.
before the game boots up,
I also
a
wouldn't mind
brand
1
new
terabyte
file has to be constructed
NVMe,
that
but I couldn't
includes the
afford that
changed
one.
portion.
I flashed
Otherwise,
that up.
every change would
Although this
add a
500
seek
gig one
or
I
two.
have is
Even so,
really
you can
quick.
occasionally see this happening on game titles. They start to hitch once they get patched enough. With an SSD, though, no seeks. So no need to make brand new files with the changes incorporated into them, which means no installs as you know them today.
This will be interesting because PC game installs will benefit this indirectly because, as it seems, there's a lot of PC installs that are just the exact same as console install. And, you know, very few people, I think some people still get a large, very fast, sometimes hybrid hard drive and put games on it. But, nah, I'm like, I want all my games on an SSD. It's, performance-wise, I really think it's worth it. It doesn't do too much for like frame rate performance, but it does enough that
is very close to being
SSD
like more
only
RAM.
when it comes to
Typically,
games.
it's fast enough that when you realize you need
Unless
a piece
they're
of
older
data,
games.
you can just
When it
load
comes
it
to older
from the
games, it doesn't
SSD
really
and
matter
use
because
it.
they're just
There's
so
no
tiny.
need to have lots of data.
Like there's some
parked in
old games that are
system
just
memory
tiny
waiting
but
to
seem
potentially
huge
be
at the
used.
time.
A different way of saying that is that
no,
most
this is
of
interesting. I should
RAM
pay
is
attention.
working on the game's behalf. This is one of the reasons that 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 feels right for PlayStation 5. The presence of the SSD reduces the need for a
but this is one thing where it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if we could be using more RAM.
Back to the dream
but
of the
because
SSD.
16's kind of become the standard, they're kind of programming for 16.
No load
but
screens.
if they're
Design
like,
freedom, meaning
I'm not
no
sure.
twisted
This is
passages
very
or
speculative.
long
I'm not.
corridors. More game on
anyways,
the disk, and more
let's
game on the SSD.
pay attention to him.
And finally, those patch installs go away.
No, they don't go away. They just become more manageable and
There's
less
a lot of
annoying.
places where
That's the thing.
bottlenecks
They're
can
overstating
occur in between the
something.
SSD
That just,
and the game
like,
code
come on,
that
guys.
uses the data.
It's
You
not
can see this
going
on PlayStation
away.
4. If I use an
It's just
SSD
not
with
going to be
10
annoying.
times the speed of a
Please
standard
don't
hard drive,
overstate it.
I probably see only double the loading speed, if that. For PlayStation 5, our goal was not just that the SSD itself be 100 times faster. It was that game loads and streaming
times faster.
would be 100 times faster. So every single potential bottleneck needed to be addressed. And there are a lot of them. Let's look at check-in and what happens when its overhead gets 100 times larger. Conceptually, check-in is a pretty simple process. Data is loaded into system memory
than a
from
regular
a hard drive or
hard drive?
SSD. It's examined. A few values are tweaked to check it in, and then it's moved to its final location.
I don't know.
At the SSD speeds
I don't
we're
remember
talking about,
any firm
that
performance
last
numbers
part,
offhand, but I
moving
can't
the
help
data,
but be
meaning
like, I'm
copying
not
it from
sure
one location
about
to another,
this 100
takes
times.
roughly an entire
and accuracy.
next-gen CPU core. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. If
Maybe
all
that's
the
just me
overheads get
being
100
on
times larger,
their
that will
overstating
cripple the frame rate
thing.
as soon as the player moves and that massive stream of data starts coming off the SSD. So to solve all of that, we built a lot of custom hardware, namely a custom flash controller and a number of custom units in our main chip.
This is actually where
controller in
consoles
the
can have an
SSD was
advantage over
designed for
PC because
smooth
they're
and
custom
bottleneck-free
specific
operation, but also
things
with games
that know
For example,
exactly
there
what
are
they're
6
doing and
levels
don't
of
do
priority when
so.
reading from the SSD.
It's
Priority
because
is very
PCs
important.
are
You
so
can
much more
imagine the player
flexible.
heading into some
That's
new
where they
location
run
in the
into
world
problems
and the
because
game
there's so much
requesting a few
variability, and
gigabytes of
that's where the
textures.
disadvantage
And while those
when it comes
textures
to
are
PC
being
versus
loaded,
console.
an
That's
enemy
where
is
some
shocked
PC
and has to
disadvantage
speak
does
a
start
few
coming
dying
in.
words.
Because the
Having
flexibility
multiple
and
priority
adaptability of
levels lets the audio for
PCs
those dying
do
words get loaded immediately.
yeah, work against optimizations and stuff because there's so
On
many
one side, that
possibilities.
flash
But when you know
controller
exactly
connects
what
to
it
actual
is, then you
flash
can just
dies
program for what
supplied
it
with
is, and
storage.
you know exactly
To
what it's going to be
reach our
doing.
bandwidth target
Here.
of 5 gigabytes a
But
second,
yeah, when you
we
know
ended up
exactly
with
what
a
it's going to be doing, it's just
12-channel
you can
interface.
optimize it way
8 channels
better.
wouldn't
And
be enough. The
So that's the
resulting
thing.
bandwidth we've achieved is
The
actually
specs are going to go a
5.5
lot
gigabytes a
further
second.
because of this
With a
kind of
12-channel
optimization
interface,
and
the
all
most
the
natural
custom
size
this
that
and
emerges
that.
for an SSD
So
is
the specs for a console
825
do go
gigabytes.
further
The
than
key
the
question for
equivalent
us
specs
was,
on a PC might
is that
go.
enough?
That
I mean, it's tempting to
I
add
am
more,
still
but
a
Flash certainly
PC
doesn't
person,
come
but
cheap.
like I
And we have a
respect and enjoy both.
responsibility to
There's
our
nothing
gaming
wrong with
audience
being
to be
like both are awesome.
cost-effective
They each
with
have their
regards to what we put in
positives
the
and
console.
negatives.
Ultimately, we resolved this question by
And just,
looking at the
you know,
play
I just prefer
patterns of a
PC over
broad
console,
range of
but I
gamers.
do
We
still enjoy
examined the
consoles.
specific games that they were playing over the course of a
I
weekend,
mean, I love
or
my
a week,
Nintendo
or
Switch.
a month, and whether
PS4 is
that
pretty
set
awesome,
of
but
games
if I
would
could
fit
get the PS4
properly on
games
the
on
SSD.
PC, yeah.
We were able to establish that the friction caused by reinstalls or re-downloads would be quite low, and so we locked in on that 825 gigabyte size, while also preparing multiple strategies so that those who want more storage can add it. I'll go through the details in a moment. Back to the Flash controller.
I totally
on the
something.
other side,
I don't
it
think
connects
that's
to our main
though.
custom chip via
It is
4
PCI
lanes of Gen
4.0.
4 PCI.
Okay, I'm not surprised.
And
Because that's
inside
kind of
the main
AMD's
custom
thing
chip
now.
is a pretty hefty unit dedicated
It's
to
fascinating
I/O.
how
Before we
AMD's like
talk about
kind
what that
of
does,
in
let's talk
position to
compression.
overtake Intel at least for a while when it
PlayStation
comes to
4 used
CPUs.
zlib as its compression format. We
What's with
decided
the
to use it
Kraken?
again on PlayStation 5, but on my 2017 tour of developers, I learned about a new format called Kraken from Rad Game Tools.
Okay.
It's like zlib's smarter cousin. Simple, similar types of algorithms, but about 10% better compression, which is pretty big. That means 10% more game on the UHD Blu-ray disc or on the SSD. Kraken had only been out for a year, but it was already becoming a de facto industry standard. Half of the teams I talked to were either using it or getting ready to evaluate it. So we hustled and built a custom decompressor into the I/O unit, one capable of handling over 5 gigabytes of Kraken format input data a second. After decompression, that typically becomes 8 or 9 gigabytes.
Actually, 5
but the
gigabytes
unit
a second is
itself
pretty damn
capable
good.
of outputting as much as 22 gigabytes a second if the data happened to compress particularly well.
Wow,
By the
that's
way,
actually
in
quite
terms of
impressive.
performance, that custom decompressor equates to 9 of our Zen 2 cores. That's what it would take to decompress the Kraken stream with a conventional CPU. There's a lot more in the custom I/O unit, including a dedicated DMA controller. The game can direct exactly where it wants to send the data
actually,
coming
some
off
of their
the SSD.
claims are
This equates to
seeming
another
maybe not
Zen
so
2 core or
overstated
2
now.
in terms of its copy performance. Its primary purpose is to remove check-in as a bottleneck. There's 2 dedicated I/O coprocessors and a large RAM pool. These aren't Zen 2 cores. They're there principally to direct the variety of custom hardware around them. One of the coprocessors is dedicated to SSD I/O.
Interesting.
This lets
So
us bypass
basically,
traditional
I/O
file
is like
I/O
input
and its
output, and
bottlenecks when
copressors
reading from
like
the
what it
SSD.
sounds like. It
The other is
it's
responsible
like
for
kind of
memory
an
mapping, which
assistant
I know
to a
doesn't sound like
processor, I
anything
guess,
related
is
to
a
the
way
SSD,
to
but
explain
a
it.
lot
So
of
the
developers
I/O
map and
coprocessors,
remap memory as part of the file
yeah, those
I/O,
will actually really
and
help
this too
speed
can become
things
a
up. So
bottleneck.
and it might help a lot with
There are
latency.
coherency engines to assist the coprocessors.
Because like with
Coherency
input output,
comes
that
up a lot in
includes
places.
like
Probably
controllers and
the
stuff.
biggest
But
coherency
generally,
issue is stale
that's
data
what they
in the
mean.
GPU caches. Flushing all of the GPU caches whenever the SSD is read is an unattractive option. It could really hurt the GPU performance. So we've implemented a gentler way of doing things.
Yeah,
where
I'm not sure
the
what this
coherency
is.
engines inform the GPU of the overwritten address ranges, and custom scrubbers in several dozen GPU caches do pinpoint evictions of just those address ranges. The best thing is, as a game developer, when you read from the SSD, you don't need to know any of this.
That's actually
You
something
don't
I've been
even
wondering
need to
about,
know
why
that
they
your
don't
data
do
is
that like
compressed.
that.
You just indicate
Because in
what
theory,
data you'd
because
like to
like they
read
kind
from the
of
original
they'll just
uncompressed
fill RAM
file
up and
and where
clear
you'd
it,
like to put it.
and kind
the
of just
whole
fill and
process
clear,
of
fill and
loading
clear.
it
But instead they can
happens
just like
invisibly to you and at very
just
high
cherry
speed.
pick and like
Back to
get
the
rid of
dream.
like
Thanks
data.
to
Be like,
all of
okay,
that
you don't need that
surrounding
data. That
hardware,
data's
our
out. We'll put
5.5
something else
gigabytes
in
a
there.
second really should
Instead of being
translate
like,
into
okay,
something
wipe the
like
RAM,
100
a whole new
times
RAM.
faster I/O than PS4, and allow the
I might be
dream of
butchering that
no
explanation,
load
but
screens
that's
and super fast
roughly.
streaming to become a reality. Having said that,
I feel like the regular way
expandability of our
RAM works,
SSD
I
is
kind
going to be
of
quite
butchered
important.
that.
Flash is costly, and you
There's
may very well
more
want
to
to
it.
add storage
then
to whatever
yeah.
we put in the console. Now, the kind
5.5
of
gig a
storage
second's
you need
pretty
depends
damn
on
good.
how you're going to use
Actually,
it. If you have an extensive
what's
PlayStation
my
4
current
library
NVMe
and you'd like to
SSD
take
at?
advantage of backwards compatibility to play those games on PlayStation 5, then a large external hard drive is ideal. You can leave your games on the hard drive and play them directly from there, thus saving the pricier SSD storage for your PlayStation 5 titles. Or you can copy your active PlayStation 4 titles to the SSD. If your purpose in adding more storage is to play PlayStation 5 titles, though, ideally you would add to your
gigabyte per second on my SSD,
so
that's pretty fast. But
M2 SSDs. These are internal drives that you can get on the open market and install in a bay in the PlayStation 5. As for which ones we support and when, I'll get to that in a moment. They connect through the custom I/O unit, just like our SSD does. So they can take full advantage of the decompression, I/O coprocessors, and all the other features I was talking about.
I gotta say, the color of the T is coming across on the
that
stream.
Commercial drive has to be at least as fast as ours. Games that rely on the speed of our SSD need to work flawlessly with any M2 drive. When I gave
the expandability is nice.
I said that the PlayStation 5 SSD was faster than anything available on PC. At the time,
I think that might have been true at the
PCIe
time.
3.0, and
But I mean, that won't
lanes of
last.
cap out at 3.5 gigabytes a second. In other
That
words,
is impressive.
no PCIe 3.0 drive can hit the required spec.
Oh,
M2
3.0.
drives with
Yeah,
PCIe
but now we got
4.0 are
4.0.
now out in the market. We're getting our samples and seeing 4 or 5 gigabytes a second from them. By year's end, I expect there will be drives that saturate 4.0 and support 7 gigabytes a second.
Okay, at least
Having said that, we are comparing apples and oranges, though, because that commercial M2
with
drive
the
will have its own architecture, its own
customization,
flash
maybe.
controller, and so on. For example, the NVMe specification lays out a priority scheme for requests that the M2 drives can use. And that scheme is pretty nice, but it only has 2 true priority levels. Our drive supports 6. We can hook up a drive with only 2 priority levels, definitely, but our custom I/O unit has to arbitrate
it seems
the
like
extra
they actually went
priority,
to some
rather than
intense
the
hardware
M2 drive's
engineering
flash
when
controller.
it comes to this.
And so the M2 drive needs a little extra speed to take care of issues arising from the different approach. That commercial drive also needs to physically fit inside of the bay we created in PlayStation 5 for M2 drives. Unlike internal hard drives, there's unfortunately no standard for the height of an M2 drive. And some M2 drives have giant heat sinks. In fact, some of them even have their own fans. Right now, we're getting M2 drive samples and benchmarking them in various ways.
That's very uncommon. I don't think I've ever
seen
or heard of an M.2 drive with a fan.
We'll also be doing some
He's kind of overstating that, but yeah, there is variability with the heat sinks. But you could just take the heat sink off. It's not like they're permanently attached.
Once we've done that compatibility testing, we should be able to start letting you know which drives will physically fit and which drive samples have benchmarked.
You might want to take your heat sink off your NVMe, because they kind of need to be like in a certain heat range to operate efficiently. So if they're too cold, they actually
hold off
won't
on
be
getting that M2
optimal.
drive until you hear from us. Okay, back to our
yeah, because you want to make sure
balancing
it's compatible,
evolution and revolution,
and that will be a thing.
This was definitely a recurring theme with the GPU. We need new GPU features and capabilities. If we only have more performance, it's not really a new generation of console.
But evolution
of course, many of these capabilities
revolution?
result in more performance. That's part of why a PlayStation 5 teraflop is more powerful than a PlayStation 4 teraflop. But we aren't just looking for the performance. We also need the ability to do something with the GPU that could not have been done before.
Let me check
And
on
we
the
need
chat
higher
here.
performance per watt. Every time we double the performance of some GPU component, we don't want to find out we've doubled the power consumed and the heat produced. But at the same time, we have to make sure the GPU can run PS4 games, and we have to ensure that the architecture is easy for the developers to adopt. Now, backwards compatibility was handled masterfully by AMD. They treated it as a key need throughout the design process. As our solution to adding new features without blindsiding developers,
this is definitely a good presentation for people who's not really already aware and educated on a lot of this kind of stuff, because he's explaining stuff a lot of people at my level of game flanging are like, yeah, we already are aware of this.
PlayStation 5 without making any use of them.
And if you're not, it's fine, don't get me wrong. But like for people that aren't so in touch with this kind of stuff, this is great to watch with no people
First,
talking over
we
it.
have a custom AMD GPU based on their RDNA 2 technology.
Already
What does
flanged.
that mean?
So how
AMD
powerful
is
is it actually going to be?
continuously
That's really what we
improving
want
and
to know.
revising their tech.
Details
For
too.
RDNA 2,
Kind of curious
their
about the
goals were,
hardware ray
roughly
tracing, which
speaking,
apparently Vulcan's
to
just got
reduce
ray
power
tracing, just in
consumption
time
by
for Doom Eternal to
re-architecting
maybe
the
get ray
GPU
tracing,
to
which would be
data
fucking
closer to
amazing.
where
Doom
it's
Eternal with
needed,
ray tracing.
to
Oh,
optimize
and
the
Vulcan. Oh my
GPU
god,
for
Doom Eternal with ray
performance, and
tracing.
to
Vulcan,
adding
please,
new,
please,
more
please,
advanced
please.
feature sets.
Anyways,
But that feature set is
me
malleable,
getting
which
super
is to
excited
say
over
that we
ray
have
tracing in Doom
our
2
own
side.
needs
Let's get
to
back to
satisfy,
the
and that can
actual
factor
content.
into what the AMD roadmap becomes.
Oh yeah.
So collaboration is born.
What's going on with
If
that
we
pre-order
bring
anyways?
concepts to AMD that are felt to be widely useful,
Why
then
is
they
it
can
that
be
you
adopted into
can?
RDNA
I'm
2
getting
and
worried
used broadly,
about
including
it.
in PC GPUs.
They like to
If
not
the
ship until
ideas
last
are
minute
sufficiently
sometimes.
specific
I
to
wouldn't
what
be
we're
surprised if I
trying
don't
to
get it until
accomplish,
next week.
like the
Anyways.
GPU cache scrubbers I was talking about, then they end up being just for us. If you see a similar discrete GPU available as a PC card at roughly the same time as we release our console, that means our collaboration with AMD succeeded. In producing technology useful in both worlds.
Like that's kind of what I
It
already
doesn't
figured.
mean
We're
that
kind of
we as
getting
Sony
AMD's
simply
Navi 2
incorporated
leaked
the
a little
PC
bit.
part into our console. This
That's the thing, they're
continuous
taking Navi
improvement
2
in AMD
and
technology
customizing
means
it.
It's dangerous to rely on teraflops as an absolute indicator of performance.
Yes.
CPU count should be avoided as well. In the case of CPUs,
No,
we all understand
he's
that
wrong.
The PlayStation 4 and
It's a
PlayStation
metric
5
that's
each have
useful,
8
but it has
CPUs,
its
but we
limit.
never think that meant
And
the
you have to know what that
capabilities
limit
and performance
is
are
when
equal.
you're using the metric
It's
for
the same
comparison, but
CUs.
it is a
For
useful
one thing,
metric
they've been
for
getting
comparison.
much larger over time.
But it doesn't tell the full
Adding
story.
new features means adding
But
lots of transistors. In fact,
this
the
seems
transistor
like
count for a
maybe that
PlayStation 5
rumor I
CPU
read heard
is
that I was hoping is true might be
62%
wrong,
larger
and
than
it might be
the
9
transistor count
teraflops,
for
and
a
they're trying to be
PlayStation
like, oh, but
5
teraflops don't matter. It's like,
Second,
actually, yes,
the
they do.
PlayStation 5 GPU is
'Cause that's
backwards compatible with PlayStation 4.
How,
What
like,
does
it's
that mean?
literally how
One
much
way
math
you
it
can
can do in
achieve
a second,
backwards
which
compatibility is to put the
everything you're
previous
doing when it
console's
comes to
chipset in the
game
new console,
rendering
like we
is
did
just
with some PlayStation 3s. But that's,
geometry
of course,
math.
extremely
Like,
expensive.
that's the thing,
A
is like what a
better way
GPU
is to
does is just like
incorporate
lots
any
of math,
differences in the
really.
previous console's
Like
logic
lots of
into
math
the
that's
new
really
console's
intense and
custom
really
chips,
quickly
meaning
is
that
what it mostly
even as the
boils down
technology
to.
evolves, the logic and feature set that PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro titles rely on is still available in backwards compatibility modes.
Probably talked
One
over something
advantage of
important
this
there.
strategy is that once backwards compatibility is in the console, it's in. It's not as if a cost down will remove backwards compatibility like it did on PlayStation 3. Achieving this unification of functionality took years of efforts by AMD, as any
Where's
roadmap
PS3
advancement
2 and 1
creates a
backwards
potential
compatibility?
divergence in logic. Running PS4 and PS4 titles at boosted frequencies has also added complexity. The boost is truly massive this time around, and some game code just can't handle it. Testing has to be done on a title-by-title basis.
Some games just can't handle. It's just like,
we
oh,
recently
come
took a look at the top
on.
100
I mean, that might
PlayStation
be
4
true, but I
titles
just
as ranked
can't
by
help be
playtime,
like,
and
oh,
we're
simmer
expecting
down there.
almost all of them to be playable at launch on PlayStation 5.
That is
With
cool.
regards to new features,
That's very
as I said,
awesome.
our strategy was to try to break new ground, but at the same time not to require use of the new GPU capabilities. For more than a decade, GPUs have imposed a restriction on
Okay. I just
software handles
yeah,
for
I
text
just had
processing,
your
but
moment.
for the most part,
He's
dedicated
trying to
hardware is
say like
responsible for the
they don't want to
triangles
make
and other
any new
geometry that the
features
vertices
mandatory.
form. That means it's not possible to do even basic optimizations, such as aborting processing of a vertex if all geometry that uses it is off-screen. PlayStation 5 has a new unit
Basically,
called the Geometry
not
Engine,
rendering
which brings
things that
handling
aren't
of
on
triangles
screen.
and other primitives
I
under
don't know why
full
you made it
programmatic
overly
control.
complex. You
As a
could
game
have
developer,
said
you're
not rendering
free to
things that
ignore its
aren't on
existence
screen.
and use the PlayStation 5 GPU as if it were no more capable than the PS4 GPU.
Well, people
you
have been
can
making
use this
comments
new
that he's
intelligence in
going to
various
be
ways.
like hard to understand
Simple
technical
usage could be
stuff, and maybe he's
performance
just got a thing
optimization,
for it,
such
and I
as
was just him being
removing
like,
backface
I must say
of
something of
off-screen
technical
vertices and
nature that
triangles.
people will have a hard time
More
understanding.
complex usage involves something called
And you just couldn't take it
primitive shaders,
anymore.
which allow the game
I'm trying to be
to
humorous, I don't
synthesize
really mean
geometry
that.
on the fly as it's being
That'd be
rendered.
funny if he was
It's
just
a
like, I
brand
can't
new
handle it. I
capability.
must be overly complicated
Using
and
primitive
technical.
shaders on PlayStation 5 will allow for a broad variety of techniques, including smoothly varying level of detail, addition of procedural detail to close-up objects, and improvements to particle effects and other visual special effects. Another major new feature of our custom RDNA 2
Yeah,
GPU
people
is
were
ray
kind of
tracing,
like
using the
meh
same
on ray
strategy
tracing
as
when it's
AMD's
new, and I was
upcoming
like,
PC
yeah, it's
GPUs.
like physics and other
The
things like
CUs
that, where
contain
it's like,
a
yeah,
new
at first
specialized
there's
unit
just,
called the
you know, it's kind
intersection
of getting
engine,
things
which
like
can
that
calculate the
going are
intersection of
tricky, but
rays with
it's,
boxes
yeah,
and
I mean,
triangles.
it seemed
To use
obvious it
the
was going to be the
intersection
future to
engine,
me.
first you build what is called an acceleration structure. It's data in RAM that contains all of your
Oh,
geometry.
it seemed like the
There's a
quality
specific set of
level
formats you can
dropped.
use. They're variations
Oh,
on the
it's
same
okay.
VVH
That's
concept.
just me.
Then, in your shader program, you use a new instruction that asks the intersection engine to check a ray against the BVH. While the intersection engine is processing the requested ray triangle or ray box intersections, the shaders are free to do other work. Having said that, the ray tracing instruction is pretty
basically the ray tracing part's separate from the rest of everything, so like the whole system doesn't get held up doing ray tracing calculations while it still needs to do other things. It basically is saying it can do both at once.
But it presents an opportunity for those interested. I'm thinking it'll take less than
really
a million
awesome.
rays a second to
Like,
have a
but
big
the
impact on
RTX
audio.
series has like dedicated ray tracing cores.
And some reverb
So,
calculations. With a bit more of
you know,
the
it's not
GPU
like they
invested
invented
in ray
that.
tracing, it should be
NVIDIA, they're just
possible to do
copying
some
what
very
NVIDIA
nice
did.
global illumination.
And you know, with physics and stuff, what AMD's done has never been as good as how AMD's done it. Apparently, NVIDIA's physics is still like, if you play the same game with AMD, you just won't get the same physics stuff going on that you would on an NVIDIA GPU.
PlayStation 5 title that's successfully using ray tracing based reflections in complex
I'm a bit of an
animated
NVIDIA
scenes
person too
with
when it
only
comes to
modest
PC
costs.
graphics cards.
Another set of
just
issues
because
for
of
the
their
GPU
text
involve
has been
size
better
and frequency. How big do we make
and
the
more
GPU,
ahead of the curve.
and what frequency do we run it at? This is a balancing act. The chip has a cost,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
there's
yeah.
a cost for whatever we
Yeah,
use
basically
to supply
they
that
need to
chip
balance
with
power,
and
heat, and
in general,
yeah,
I like
power,
running the
heat,
GPU
and
at higher
performance.
frequency. Let me show you why. Here's
Well,
two
yeah, we all
possible
do, because that
configurations
means
for a
it's
GPU
faster,
roughly at the level
because
of the
that's how it
PlayStation 4
works.
Pro.
That's,
This is a thought experiment.
I mean,
Don't take these
frequency is actually
configurations
kind of
too
literal.
seriously.
It's the literal
If you just
frequency at
calculate
which it
teraflops, you
does
get the
its
same
thing.
number. But actually, the performance is noticeably different because teraflops is defined as the computational capability of the vector ALU. That's just one part of the GPU. Teraflops, you get the same
what did
number.
I do there?
But actually, the performance
Okay,
is
apparently my cough
noticeably
button's
different
linked
because teraflops is defined
some
as
other
the
hotkey, so I
computational
can't use it.
capability of the vector ALU. That's just one
He's
part of the
just,
GPU.
he's
There are a lot
unnecessarily
of other
overcomplicating
units,
this.
and those
again.
other units all run faster.
He's
when
just
the
saying
GPU
teraflops
frequency
is kind of
higher.
a specific
At
metric.
33% higher frequency, rasterization goes 33% faster. Processing the command
Yeah, of
buffer
course.
goes that much faster. The L2 and other caches have that much higher bandwidth, and so on. About the only downside is that system memory is 33% further away in terms of cycles. But the large number of benefits
because
more
system
than
memory kind of has to
counterbalance
sync
that.
up with it.
As a friend of mine says, a rising tide
Or it's
lifts
just more
all
optimal
boats.
if it's kind of synced
Also,
up.
it's easier to fully use 36 CUs in parallel than it is to fully use 48 CUs. When triangles are small, it's much harder to fill all those CUs with useful work. So there's a lot to be
feel
said
like
for
they're kind of
faster,
trying to
assuming
justify
you
it
can
having
handle
lower
the resulting
specs than the
power and heat
Xbox.
issues, which frankly we haven't always done.
I feel like they're trying to be like,
Part of the
it's
reason
just
for
as
that
fast
is,
as the Xbox,
historically,
even though the
our
numbers
process
are
for
lower.
setting CPU and GPU frequencies has
And
relied on some
we'll have
heavy-duty
to see.
guesswork with regards to how much electrical power
But,
games will consume and how much heat will be produced
that-
as a result inside of the console.
Yeah, I know that says PS4. I'm like,
Power
what is
consumption
that?
varies a
They still
lot
haven't shown
from
us
game
what a
to game.
PS5 looks
When
like.
I play God of War on my PS4 Pro, I know the power consumption is high.
How far
just
into
by the
this are
fan
we?
noise. But power
what have
isn't
we got for a
simply about
timestamp?
engine quality. It's about the minutia of what's being displayed.
Oh yeah,
now.
because it's all minus.
It's
Where's like
counterintuitive,
the actual.
but processing
Yeah, we're
dense
like
geometry
over half an hour
consumes
into
less
this,
power than
and
processing
there's
simple
like
geometry,
we haven't seen
which is,
it.
I suspect,
wonder what
why
the chat's like.
Horizon's map screen with its low triangle
Yeah, this is going to be a
makes
long
my
one.
PS4 Pro heat up so much. Our
I
process
haven't
on
had the
previous
jet
consoles
engine
has been to try
sound
to guess
issues
what the
with my
maximum
PS4
power
Pro.
consumption during the entire console lifetime
I just
might
haven't
be,
had much of
which
an
is to
issue
say, the
with
worst
that.
case scene in the worst case game, and prepare a cooling solution that we think will be quiet at that power level.
What
If
they
we get
should
it
have
right,
done with the
fan
PS4
noise is
Pro
minimal. If we get it
properly.
wrong, the console
Apparently
will
I
be
got a
quite
good one,
loud for
but
the
I
higher
still
power
want to
games,
take it
and
apart
there's
and do
even a
thermal
chance
paste
that it
and
might
all that.
overheat
Although I
and
guess
shut
it's
down
close
if
to
we
the end of its
misestimate power
lifespan, so that
too
video
badly. PlayStation 5 is
Oh, well, I should do
especially
that anyways.
challenging
It's good
because the
practice,
CPU
even if it
supports
won't be
256-bit
anything
native
that
instructions
matters too
that
much,
consume
just
a
because
lot
its
of power.
lifespan's over.
These are great here and there, but presumably only minimally used. Or are
But
they?
yeah,
If we
it's been
plan
a
for major
long-standing problem
256-bit
with
instruction
thermals
usage,
and
we need to set the CPU clock
design
substantially
and all
lower,
that.
or noticeably increase the size of the power supply and fan. So, after much discussion, we decided to go with a very different direction on PlayStation 5. We built a GPU with 36 CUs. Mind you, RDNA 2 CUs are large. Each has 62% more transistors than the CUs we were using on PlayStation 4. So if we compare transistor counts, 36 RDNA 2 CUs equates to roughly 58 PlayStation 4 CUs. It is a fairly sizable GPU. Then we went with a variable frequency strategy for PlayStation 5.
So like literally the like little tiny cores
continuously run the GPU and CPU in boost mode.
Bigger.
We supply
like
a generous amount of electrical power and then increase the frequency of GPU and CPU until they reach the capabilities of the system's cooling solution. It's a completely different paradigm. Rather than running at constant frequency and letting power vary based on the workload, we run at essentially constant power and let the frequency vary based on the workload. We then tackled the engineering challenge of a cost-effective and high-performance cooling solution designed for that specific power level. In some ways, it becomes a simpler problem because there are no more unknowns. There's no need to guess what power consumption the worst-case game might have. As for the details of the cooling solution, we're saving them for
I don't know. I can't
help
help but be like,
you'll be quite happy with what the engineering team came up with.
I don't want to
how fast can we run
come to any
and
conclusions
till
they tell us
the simplest
more.
approach would be to look
But that
at the
they're like
actual
taking this
temperature of the
roundabout way
silicon
to
die
get to the
and
end
throttle
point.
the frequency
I don't know.
of
I'm
that
getting the
basis.
feeling they're
But
trying
that
to
won't work.
justify
It
lower
fails to
numbers
create a
being as good
consistent
as
PlayStation 5 experience.
Xbox's bigger
it
numbers.
wouldn't do to run a console slower simply because
Like,
it was in a hot room. So rather than look at the actual temperature of the silicon die,
they could be
we
getting
look
to
at
the point a lot
activities
better,
that the
and I'm
GPU
bad
and
at getting to
CPU
the
are
point
performing,
and being
and set the
concise.
frequencies on
And
that
I'm
basis,
like, dude, you
which
guys
makes
could
everything
really get to the point
deterministic
here.
and repeatable.
Oh man!
While we're at it, we also use AMD's Smart Shift technology
frustrating.
and
My
send
doctor's
any
phone
unused
call
power
came in,
from the
and I had to like
CPU
pause
the
this or
GPU
some shit, so
so
I
it can
can't miss that
squeeze
phone
out
call.
a few more pixels.
This is taking way longer than I thought it
Benefits
would.
of this strategy are
But anyways,
quite
so what
large.
is actually going
Running
on here?
a GPU at 2 gigahertz was looking like an unreachable target with the old fixed frequency strategy.
That's pretty much
With
what
this new
mine's running
paradigm,
at.
we're able to run way over that. In fact, we have to cap the GPU frequency at 2.23 gigahertz so that we can guarantee that the on-chip logic operates properly. 36 CUs at 2.23 gigahertz is 10.3 teraflops, and we expect
That's
the
more
GPU
than the 9
to
we were
spend most
seeing.
of its time at or close to that frequency and performance.
They're talking all this about how
Similarly,
teraflops
running
don't
the
matter,
CPU
then they
at
give us a
3 gigahertz was
10.3.
causing headaches with
That's
the old
lower
strategy.
than Xbox
But
Series
now
X
we can run
12.
it as high as 3.5
I
gigahertz. In
think
fact,
there's a
it
lot of
spends
this
most
is
of
trying
its
to be
time
like,
at that
oh,
frequency.
we have lower teraflops, but
That
we're
doesn't
still
mean
at
all
least just
games
as
will be
good, or
running
maybe
at
better.
2.23 gigahertz and 3.5 gigahertz.
That's
When
really
that
what I'm getting out of
worst-case
this.
game arrives, it will run at a
Although
lower
some of this
cost.
architecture
But
does seem
not too much
interesting. How
lower.
they're
To
handling
reduce
like the
power by
constant
10%,
power, then
it only
adjusting the
takes a couple of
frequency.
percent reduction
That's
in frequency.
interesting,
So I'd
but I
expect
think there
any
might be a
downclock here
drawback
to
to
be
that.
pretty
That
minor. All things
they're not
considered, the
talking
change
about
to a
that.
variable frequency approach will show significant gains for PlayStation gamers. The final of our
I don't
three
know.
principles was about finding new dreams.
It feels like something
important
that
for
sounds
us
good
on
on
the
paper,
hardware
but
team to find
I
new ways
question
to
its
expand
actual
or deepen
execution.
gaming.
We'll have to
That's
see.
what led us to a focus on 3D audio. As players, we experience the game
I
through
don't know,
the
I just
visuals,
can't help but
through
be like,
audio, and through the feedback we receive from the controller, such as
But
rumble
all
or haptics.
that to get to the
Personally,
actual
I feel
number,
a game is just dead without
that's
audio.
still not as
Visuals are,
good.
of course, important, but the impact of audio is huge as well.
Although the
At the
frequency
same
numbers
time,
are
the audio team on a game project
decent.
has to do a lot with a little. For example, on PlayStation 4, there's fierce competition for the Jaguar CPU cores. Audio typically ends up getting just a fraction of a core. That's not much of a computational resource, particularly when you
it's one
consider
thing
that
I
the
wonder about when
visuals
they
run
do
at
the
30
like
or 60
multi-core
frames a second,
processing
but audio
type
processing needs to happen
optimizations of
at
programming.
almost
Like I shouldn't be
200
having to
times
put
a second.
games on the back half of my cores.
So, it's been tough going making
on
forward progress
Ryzen.
on audio
Like, I
with
feel like
PlayStation
it should
4, particularly when
that
PlayStation
on
3
its-
was such a
like,
beast when it came to audio. The SPUs in Cell
But
were
with
almost the
consoles,
perfect
like,
device
you know,
for audio
why don't they
rendering.
just have like a
Simple
dedicated audio
pipelined
chip? But then
algorithms
there's
could
problems
really take advantage
potentially
of
with that.
asynchronous DMA and frequently reached 100% utilization of the floating point unit. There's unfortunately nothing comparable on PlayStation 4. Probably the most dramatic progress in the PlayStation 4 generation has been with virtual reality. The PSVR hardware has its own audio unit. It supports about 50 pretty decent 3D sound sources. And this provided a hint as to where we could go with audio, as well as some valuable experience. Not to oversimplify, but here were our goals for audio on PlayStation 5. The first goal was great audio
that's kind
for
of
everyone,
hilarious.
not just VR users or soundbar owners or headphone users. That meant audio had to be part of the console. It couldn't be a peripheral. The second goal was to support
that is something
hundreds of
consoles
sound
do
sources.
seem to lack,
We didn't
is
want
sort of the
developers to have to
high-end
pick and
surround
choose
sound audio
what sounds
support.
would
Like,
get
you know,
3D
there's
effects
not
and
exactly
which
surround
wouldn't. We
sound
wanted every sound in the game to have
specific
dimensionality.
hookups, but a lot of sounds
And
just going through
finally, we
HDMI
wanted
nowadays.
to really take on the challenges of presence and locality. Now, when we say presence, we mean the feeling that you're actually there. You've entered the matrix. It's not, of course, something we thought we could perfectly
That's not what
achieve.
that means.
The idea was that if we
You
stopped
totally
using
used
just
entering the
array
matrix.
sound,
Who
and
wrote this?
instead
That's not how you
lots
enter
of
the
3D audio
matrix.
sources for raindrops hitting
I
the
feel like
ground,
I'm kind of
all sorts of
side-sitting here. I'm
locations
just going to go
around
full
you. And at
side-sitter
some
just
point,
because
your
Better
brain
Call
would
Saul
take a
was
leap,
hilarious.
and you begin to have this feeling.
I'm side-sitting.
This feeling of real presence inside the virtual world.
Actually, that's kind of
game.
weird and awkward to do. No
This
more
has
side-sitting.
the capacity to affect your appreciation of the game, just like music in a game does. The concept of locality is simple. It's just your sense of where the audio is coming from.
Hilarious.
To the right of you, behind you, above you. This can immerse you further in the game, and it can also directly enhance the gameplay. To use Dead Space as an example, I know, old school. You're fighting enemies in fairly dark,
It is an older
spooky
game, but it's not that old school.
Back in the day, if you played the game using the TV speakers, you could tell that there was one last enemy growling and hunting you down, but it was difficult to tell quite where that enemy was.
Yeah.
With
Even on my
headphones, you could
soundbar,
tell
the
that the enemy was
stereos
somewhere on the right, which let you deduce, if you couldn't see it, that it must be somewhere behind and to your right. But with 3D audio with good locality, the idea is you know the enemy is precisely there, and you turn and you take it out. So, how do we know where a sound is coming from in the first place?
Yeah, with these headphones, it's not
all
too
those
bad.
bumps
With
and
Call of
folds
Duty
in
and
the
all
ear
that.
have a meaning, evolutionarily speaking, based on what direction the sound is coming from.
Grapplers who get cauliflower ear can actually really fuck with their hearing. I only got it a little bit, but
interference, and the result
it makes
is a
me want
change
to
in volume.
wear
The phase
head
of the sound
protection
also shifts,
for the
depending on what
cauliflower
path
ears.
the sound wave
Because
took
they got
to
like little
reach
head
the ear
protectors
canal.
for
These
cauliflower
volume
ear,
changes
so you don't get it. It's
phase
just from like
shifts are
rubbing.
different for each
And it
direction,
like separates
and also
the
vary
skin from the cartilage,
depending
and then
on
it
the
like
frequency of the sound.
winds up getting like
Head size and head
calcification
shape
and
also
it
impact
going
the
on,
sound
so you get
in a
these like
similar fashion.
crazy
The
lumps.
way
Look up
that the
cauliflower
sound
ear.
changes based on direction
But yeah,
and
if someone's got
frequency can be
cauliflower ear,
encoded in a
do
table called
not
the
start
head-related
shit with
transfer
them.
function,
If you see
or
someone with like even a little bit of
HRTF.
cauliflower ear,
Here's part
do
of it.
not pick shit with
The
that
vertical
person.
axis
You
is
do
the
not want to
frequency.
get in a fight with
The
anyone with
horizontal
cauliflower
axis
ear.
is the
Unless
direction,
you also have
front, back,
cauliflower
left,
ear.
right, and the
But if you
color
also have
gives the
cauliflower ear, you're
degree
probably
of
not going to pick any
attenuation
fights
of the
because you know
sound
better
at
than
that
that.
frequency.
That's the thing
The
about martial.
HRTF
Anyways, we should get
is
back to
as
that. But yeah,
unique
martial
to an
arts in
individual
large part
as a
teaches you
fingerprint is.
wide stuff
In
to get
fact,
into fights.
you're looking at mine right now. Here's how we
Anyways, I
measure
totally
an
missed that because I
HRTF.
rambled
We've
off on
taken
something different.
hundreds of people through this process. We put a microphone in the subject's left and right ear canals.
Wow,
and
they
then
really.
sit the subject down
Anyways,
in
even
the
though I
middle
missed
of an
the
array of
technical
22
part
speakers.
there,
We
does
then
ramble.
play an
Whoa,
audio stream
what
from
the
each speaker
fuck?
as we rotate the subject. In the course of 10 or
Whoa,
20
this
minutes, we're able
dude,
to
they
sample the
went to
HRTF
some
at
expense
over
and effort when it
1,000
came to the
locations.
engineering and design of this
Using an
fucking
HRTF
console.
when
I
rendering
hope it
audio
lives up
creates
to everything they're
unparalleled
fucking
quality,
talking
but it's
about just because they
computationally
put so much
expensive.
damn work into
The
it.
simplest
like, wow.
way to use an HRTF is to process a sound source
Yeah,
to
this
make it
is
appear
stuff
as if it's
I'm
coming
not
from
very
one of those
knowledgeable
1,000
about.
locations we sample.
At least not yet.
Unfortunately, the
I'm gonna
processing
have
has to be
I
done in
think,
frequency
so.
domain rather than time domain, so there's multiple fast Fourier transforms needed for every sound source for
Yeah,
every
I'm not sure
audio
what a
type.
Fourier
That's
transform is.
a
I
lot
should though.
of multiplies.
I really
This
should.
computational
but I
complexity
don't
was
remember.
the determining factor for our strategy. It meant we had to bite the bullet and design and build a custom hardware unit for 3D audio. Collectively, we're referring to the hardware unit and the proprietary algorithms we run on it as Tempest 3D audio tech. The meaning of 3D audio and technology should be pretty obvious here. As for Tempest, I feel it really reflects our goals with audio. It suggests a certain intensity of experience and also hints at your presence within it. We're calling the hardware unit that we built the Tempest engine. It's based on AMD's GPU technology. We modified a compute unit in such a way as to make it very close to SPUs in PlayStation 3.
Okay, they just have like an audio-specific compute unit.
So the Tempest engine has no caches, just like an SPU.
I mean, I shouldn't minimize it like that,
just like an SPU. Our target was that it would have more power than a CPU, thanks to the parallelism
that will be interesting. That actually could be a really interesting, cool thing with PlayStation.
The goal being to make possible near 100% utilization of the CUs.
Because yeah, that's the thing with PCs. If you really want to get nuts with your sound quality, you go get a sound card, which can be kind of expensive.
As all 8 Jaguar cores in the PlayStation 4 combined. If
we I gotta say, actually mentioning PCs being expensive, I gotta say with how much
but of course,
time and effort and expense they put into their research into designing this thing and engineering it.
It would have been wonderful if a simpler strategy, such as using Dolby Atmos peripherals, could have achieved our goals. But we wanted 3D audio for all, not just those with licensed soundbars or the like. Also, we wanted many hundreds of sound sources, not just the 32 that Atmos supports. And finally, we wanted to be able to throw
the new 3.1, what am I saying? Like 7.1 and surround sound, things like Dolby Atmos, they're great, but
in fact,
you do wind up into this thing where if like you have to pick one and hope everything you get adheres to that standard, otherwise like you don't really
convolution reverb and other algorithms that are either computationally expensive or need high bandwidth. But the primary purpose of
and actually the high-end audio can apparently get,
now, 3D audio is a major academic research topic. It's safe to say that no one in the world has all of the answers. And the set of algorithms that has to be invented, tuned, or implemented to realize our vision for 3D audio is immense. For example, use of HRTFs in games is quite complex. Before, I talked about making the sound source appear as if it's coming from one of those 1,000 HRTF sample locations. But for high-quality 3D game audio, we have to handle other possibilities. The sound source might not be at one of the 1,000 HRTF sample locations, so we have to blend the HRTF data from the closest locations that we have sampled. The sound source might be moving, which needs very special handling as that blend keeps changing, and that can cause phase artifacts in the resulting audio. Or the sound source might have a size to it, meaning it should feel as if it's coming from an area rather than a single point.
It's like, yeah,
there's also whole categories of approaches to be handled. 3D audio can be
I'm just not so
individual
technical aspects on this, but I'm like you really could get to the point with a lot of this a lot quicker. Okay, this is actually interesting.
Spherical harmonics used in computer graphics. And finally, there's audio devices.
The actual interesting thing, he doesn't explain enough.
Speakers, or have a higher-end surround sound setup with 6 or more speakers, all of which need different approaches. That's a lot of variations. It's nice to have the computational resources of the Tempest engine, but it's clear that achieving our ultimate goals with 3D audio is going to be a multi-year, step-by-step process.
Okay.
Having said that, headphone audio implementation is largely complete.
Improved and iterated upon.
It was a natural place for us to start with headphones.
Oh yeah, because headphones are going to be one of the most common
and therefore the algorithmic development and implementation are more straightforward.
Especially games where
TV speakers
it's important to hear where things are
we're in
coming
the process of implementing virtual surround sound. The idea being that if you're sitting in a sweet spot in front of your TV, then the sound
it's just hard to make them not suck.
It's coming
for
from
a whole
any
bunch of
direction,
reasons.
even behind you. Virtual surround sound has a lot in common with 3D audio and headphones, but it's more complex because the left ear can hear the right speaker and vice versa.
Basically, if you want decent sound,
implementation of virtual surround sound up and running.
Unless you got like some ridiculous high-end TV, and even then you probably want to get like some sort of proper
you need to be in to feel the 3D effect larger. And we're also working to boost the sense
I was thinking it would be worth getting some sort of surround sound deal for the office gaming room here
on PlayStation 5, but we're going to see what we can do to bring virtual surround sound to a similar level, after which we'll start in on setups with more speakers, such as 6-channel surround sound.
It makes sense.
It's now to the point where some of the PlayStation 5 games in development are extensively using these systems. One of the game demos allows you to toggle between conventional PlayStation 4 style stereo audio and our new 3D
my
audio.
beard and my hair.
I listened with just an ordinary pair of over-the-ear headphones, and wow, I can feel a difference.
Like, damn,
3D audio has that dimensional feel to it. Conventional stereo audio feels smashed flat by comparison.
Yeah, I need
the
like something to fit over, so
obvious. So, a big advancement, but have I entered Matrix?
Like
Does my brain believe I'm
really
there?
Off with the entrance.
Like I was talking about earlier when I explained our target of presence. Well, the
that's not what Enter the Matrix means.
But you've probably caught on to what's missing here, namely whose
HRTF. What?
It wasn't mine. It was the default HRTF. The audio team analyzed the hundreds that they measured and chose the one they felt was the closest fit to the total game-playing audience. This shows a piece of the default HRTF on the left and my HRTF on the right. You can see that the general features are much the same, but the details are quite different. With the default HRTF, as I said, the 3D audio sounds pretty great. When I use my HRTF, though, the audio reaches a higher level of realism.
So is that like
which is to say that when using headphones and my HRTF, I occasionally get fooled and even think a sound is coming from the real world.
I might have missed something while I was talking over him. Like, can you set your own HRTF?
A corollary to this is that there are a few people whose HRTFs are sufficiently far from the default HRTF.
That's what it seems like.
That's the red dot here. But they can toggle between PS4 style and PS5 style audio and not sense much difference.
Yeah, I've probably totally talked over that.
Describe the PlayStation 5's 3D audio as sounding like a bit better stereo audio. Presumably, they're the ones at the very edges of this diagram. Which means what HRTF you're using is key. I'd like everyone to be able to experience what I'm experiencing, but obviously it's not possible to measure the HRTF of every PlayStation user. That means HRTF selection and synthesis are going to be big topics going forward as the Tempest technology matures.
Oh yeah, there should be a way
PlayStation
to
5 launch, we'll be offering a choice of 5 HRTFs. There's a simple test where you pick the one that gives you the best locality. That's just the first step, though. This is an open-ended research topic.
Interesting.
Maybe you'll be sending us a photo of your ear, and we'll choose a neural network
be really
to pick
cool.
the closest HRTF.
Especially for people like me who have various levels of cauliflower and stuff like that, where it's
we'll
like
make a
that
3D
will
model
throw
of them
some.
And synthesize the HRTF.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be interesting. How cauliflower ear
to tune your HRTF.
that.
We'll be subtly changing it as you play, and home in.
That'd be interesting if they have a cauliflower ear specific HRTF. Be like, yeah, you do.
This is a journey we'll all be taking together over the next few years.
Interesting.
Ultimately, we're committing to enabling everyone to experience that next level of realism.
Interesting.
Hopefully, I've been able to illustrate a bit about our design and decision-making process today.
Yeah, but what does it look like?
Now comes the fun part. We get to see how the development community takes advantage of that feature set. I'm hoping
Is he trying
for the
to tease
completely
us?
unexpected.
Seriously though,
Will it come
it's
from
like
audio, ray tracing,
it's like, and we'll
the
see.
capabilities of
I was
the
like,
SSD,
I thought
or
he was going to say
something
what
else?
it looks
I
like.
guess we'll find out soon enough. Thank you for your time today.
For real, and we don't even get to see what it looks like. Wait, and we don't even get to see what it looks like. Wait. What? What? Yeah. 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 Oh my god. The chat's reactions are wow. Yeah. Yeah. We'll just let that sit while I finish making commentary. Yeah. Well, that was a very interesting hour-long presentation on how even though the PS5 has lower teraflops, it's just as good or better than the Xbox Series X. A lot of the tech does look interesting. Some of it does seem like it might be overstated. There are some things where I'm like, okay, I gotta see it in action to trust that it is what they say it is, but yeah, I'm not reacting as strong as the chat in the actual video is, but yeah, this is gonna be interesting. Oh shit. Oh no. Yeah. There's a lot of people that were expecting a lot more and a lot different out of this. And yeah, like, so I guess this might be a good opportunity to talk about something I've been noticing about expectations and then what companies deliver. Because what people were expecting was definitely to see the console, to learn more tangible, real stuff. We didn't even see the fucking controller. Like, Spawnwave was joking we'd see Cerny holding up a controller or whatever, and he didn't even hold up a controller. Like, I think we've kind of seen the controller design, but like, they didn't show shit. Like, wow. Yeah, ooh. Like, a lot of the actual technical details and all that look very interesting, and I hope they deliver, but, ooh, and that's the thing. Like, I feel like this whole presentation was about, okay, we're gonna stay now 10.3, I think it was, teraflops, and gotta have the 0.3, so it's like that much more than 10, which, yeah, yeah. Yeah, sorry. I'm getting stuck on looking at chat there. Anyways, so yeah, like people were expecting to actually see the thing and get more tangible details and information, and yeah, we pretty much got a presentation on how, even though it has lower numbers, it's just as good or better than the Series X, even though we'll have to see. I mean, some of the customizations and optimizations should. But anyways, I got a bit distracted. What I do want to touch on more is the expectations, where there's this thing that's been happening over and over again where the community and customers and etc. have certain expectations built up, and they might don't seem to intentionally be setting or building these expectations, and some of them are just like kind of community expectations where we want things. So when they say, oh, we're going to get a PS5 presentation, we kind of expect certain things, and they're out of touch with these expectations, regardless of if the expectations are valid or not. That's not what we're here to talk. That's what I don't not what I want to talk about, but more just the disconnect and disparity where companies aren't in touch with us customers and fans, etc., and don't realize we have these expectations. Then they go unfulfilled, and then we get stuff like this chat that's not very happy about the hour-long presentation we just watched. So even though the presentation had a lot of legit good stuff in it, and was legit very interesting, I mean, and even I was like, yeah, they really could have been more concise and to the point with this. Yeah, yeah, they didn't meet the expectations that they're not in touch with. Otherwise, if they're in touch with our expectations, we would have gotten a different presentation, or at least they would have tempered our expectations and been like, don't expect this, this, or this. And they did say deep dive into PS5 system architecture and all that, so they didn't tell us we would see the PS5, but they need to realize we want to see it that bad that they got to show us the fucking PS5 in this Road to PS5 presentation. They got to at least show it to us. I mean, when we've seen the Series X, and they've told us all this stuff about the Series X, and we haven't even like physically seen the PS5, is just like, what, PlayStation, really? And yeah, yeah, this generation might wind up swinging more towards Xbox's direction, perhaps. Well, we'll have to wait and see what it's like when the consoles are actually released. Um, But yeah, this might swing things in Xbox's favor, at least for a while. Exclusive games could help keep people on PlayStation, but yeah, this is gonna be interesting, the build up to the console generation release, because Xbox has been like, here you go, and PlayStation's been like, here's architecture information, but it's got lower numbers, and you don't even get to see it. So maybe I wouldn't be surprised if they might be redesigning the appearance or something like that, or something might still be in the works or in flux even potentially. I mean, we did get the look at what's definitely a developer kit, but how much it's going to look like that dev kit is questionable. And when it comes to how much it looks like the dev kit, that's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes it looks more like the dev kit, excuse me, and sometimes it doesn't look at all like the dev kit. Oh, excuse me. But I wouldn't be surprised if the PS5 does look like the dev kit, but is just like smaller, like a shorter venting apparatus at the top and all that. Like with the whole like V5 shape correlation and all that, and just like the kind of heating cooling design that would give would be probably pretty good depending on how they flange it up potentially. And also it makes it so like you can put it in a lot of places without restricting the airflow and the cooling so much the way they did it. So I wouldn't be surprised if it looks like the dev kit mostly. But like, especially with us having seen the dev kit, it doesn't make sense for them to not show it to us. That's what really gets me, is like, just show it to us, guys, especially with Xbox having shown it to us. Like, and that's definitely a huge factor why people were not too happy about it, is not actually seeing it. I was fully expecting them to at least show it to us. And yeah, it's this kind of disconnect where, regardless of if the expectations are valid or not, they're not in touch with that to even temper, mitigate, or what's the other term? I can't remember the term I'm looking for, but yeah, they could like, yeah, they could change how they build us up for something like this presentation, and also be very clear what we're not going to get. Which, I mean, it's like, they kind, with reading the little description there, but they can't rely on stuff like that, because we're not everyone reads that description. First of all, no, not everyone pays a lot of attention to it when they read it, and just their PR people are kind of mediocre apparently, or the marketing people, the people that kind of put this stuff together. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. And it'll be very interesting to see how Sony PlayStation reacts to people not being too happy about their presentation. And I suppose it was supposed to be more like a GDC or GTC present replacement, but like that they had this fake crowd. Like, whose fucking idea was the fake crowd? Unnecessary. Don't fucking do that. Never do that again. That was just bad. Like like yeah, but it was the kind of presentation you would give to developers ish, kinda. So it does feel something more perhaps developer focused than us focused, but yeah, it's the out of touchness that's like just widespread. It's all over the place. It's not just gaming. It's all over the place, the out of touchness. And I want to do some content that's like more specific to gaming and tech on companies being out of touch, but I'm not sure how to approach that, because that's an interesting topic to approach where you can come at it from all sorts of different angles and stuff. Anyways, I should wrap this up. I got a phone call coming any minute now potentially from my new gastroenterologist for the phone consult, which apparently is pretty important considering I threw up this morning. Like, stuff's coming back. So yeah, thanks for supporting Intoxicus Gaming, Patreon, and GoFundMe and all that. I'll keep this wrapping up short. Yeah, hop in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the presentation, and like what were your expectations going in, and yeah, just let me know what you think in general. Super curious. I don't know if I'm going to live stream day. Like, I can definitely finish Doom 2016 tomorrow. There's only like 2 levels left, so I don't know if I'll live stream today because I've not been feeling that great. So I'll probably more just kind of rest and chill and work on some other stuff. I do plan to release the Joy-Con buckle replacement video for Nintendo Switch. I'll do the voiceover and flange that up tomorrow sometime, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, whenever the Doom Eternal Collector's Edition arrives, I already mentioned this, I will still do the Patreon exclusive, like, full video. Then I'm just going to cut, like, kind of a maybe more of a trailer for the Patreon. Yeah, that's all I'll do. I'll make, like, a trailer for the Patreon exclusive to, like, more of a thing to help ease people into, like, oh, this is a good reason to sign up for the Patreon kind of thing. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Definitely going to be streaming Doom Eternal all weekend. I mean, I was thinking I'd double dip and get it on Steam too, but I think I might have to. If the collector's edition doesn't arrive in time, I won't have much of a choice. So yeah, I'll see you guys again tomorrow for the live stream and the regular content. Yeah, just this presentation, it'll be interesting to see how other people talk about it and hear how other people talk about it. But yeah, have a good one. Remember to bring towel. Bye bye. Oh, outro music. I don't even have that, like, ready to go. Oh, yeah. Okay, outro music. Bye now. Oh, there we go.